starting already. You know what? Okay. Yeah, but I can't do a sound check anyway. It's too much noise. Just once, that's all.
And if it's less than -6, so it's a -7.
No, it's not -6, -7. You're gonna see there is too much. That is not good.
This should not be flickering?
Yeah, no.
If this flickers, what
If it flickers once in the whole time, it's nothing. But not like it's doing now.
If it does this, what should I do?
Over here, just bring it down. Like, you see?
Because it's too high.
Yeah,
Until it stops flickering, and then just leave it high. So again, I'm going to press this.
Yeah.
And then if this flickers, I stop.
Yeah, not less than 80. Is it 90 now? Not less than 80.
Doesn't work? Don't blame me. And video.
Doesn't matter.
Anything that has to be held against
join you here with the 5th annual project. I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. I'm not 100% sure that you'll all be happy about it after, but it really doesn't matter because I get to see my grandchildren. My daughter and son-in-law get a few extras brought over from London without having to find somebody else to schlepp, and we're all happy. So, and when I heard what the title was, because I think I said yes before actually hearing what the whole thing was about, I was, okay, the truth is that this happens to be a little bit of a pet love of mine, I guess you can probably call it. But for those of you who don't know, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Joanne Dove. My claim to fame here is our daughter and son-in-law named Navani Broda. I have actually the first time I was in... And I share every Friday. There we go. So thank you very much. So you either do or don't understand me. And my first time in Gibraltar, how many years? 16, 17? Was for Giselle Levy's wedding. And I have to say that it's a few years ago. 17, 18, 19? Oh my gosh, 20. No, I'll tell you exactly, my 19-year-old was nearly 2. And I bought him a t-shirt that said, I'm 2 because, I don't know, a whole list of demands. And that's it. We walked up and down Main Street. I never knew whether I was sweating or I'd just come out of the shower. That was my introduction to wonderful Gibraltar. And the truth is that I was coming here, but all the people that I've ever had any connection with, starting with Rosette Hassan in Baipagan. It's back a few years. We were in the same, around the same country. It was a couple of years older than Giselle Signor. You know, we've got, so Gibraltar has always held an incredibly beautiful, warm part of our hearts. And then into Leeds University, where we had Ruth Benardi was with us. So we go back. So I feel like I'm home. So it's okay. We're comfortable, we're home, we're all friends. And to tell you the honest truth, we're going to have to be like that when we're talking about what we're going to be talking about tonight. Because, hey, you know, there's nothing nicer than meeting a new color. A new young woman comes to meet you because she's been forced to meet you. because she's told, really, if you want to get married in the Johannesburg, under Johannesburg Beth Din, you have to go to somebody who teaches about mikvah. The wonderful thing that they do as well is a program called Prepare, which isn't the halakhic side of married life, but a little bit more the communicating side of married life, where young couples, before they get married, actually have to go through a program where they learn to find out what they know about each other and what they don't, and it's usually they know very little. So, and it doesn't matter if they've been living together for 10 or 15 years or maybe 3 weeks ago, it's all the same. The day after they get married, they realize, oh my gosh, I thought I knew, and you know absolutely nothing. So they'll come to me, and that will be the beginning of saying hi, and we start talking, and then I've got to start asking, so when did you get your last period? And, you know, are you using contraception? Like, how are we going to work with your wedding? Have you thought about your wedding date? Wedding date, wedding period, oh my gosh, no. You know, so we've got all the differences and all the different things, and that's how you actually get to meet and become acquainted. So this is how we're going to be meeting, not young colours, but if you treat yourself always as a colour, you'll always be shocked the day after, and you'll say, okay, we'll just keep on growing, because that's what we need really to be doing. Because there's nothing like being in a position as people, as who we are as human beings. And, you know, there's a wonderful joke that the men all say they marry their wives and wish they'd stay the same, but women marry men in order to change them. So the truth is that there's something very special in really that, and that is that we all hope as people that we are all transforming and growing spiritually, really growing spiritually, because our lives should never be stagnant. Right? Our lives should never be the same. And I can tell you one thing, is that when people come and they start learning, and it doesn't make a difference whether you learn before you're married, or maybe it does, because when you're learning before you get married, you are thinking of many things other than what the person you're sitting with and trying to teach you. Because you're thinking about the colour of the tablecloths, you're thinking about the bad fitting you just had, is my shadel going to look okay? And, you know, and you're trying to learn something which is really going to have a huge impact, hopefully positively, on all of our lives. And as we do grow as people, we sometimes forget that we really need to do a little bit of backward learning and forward learning and preparing ourselves and re-preparing and saying, like, what have I missed? Did I do anything? Where should I go to? And that's really why we should always be in a place of always growing, and not only spiritually, but also looking to see what we've done halachically, where we actually are up to. I had a great merit this week, and I really do always feel that way. For those of you who know Rebbetzin Sipora Hela, she was staying in our house. We had 3 days of her. I had 12 hours of classes, and now I've got to listen to each one about 3 times before I probably get what she actually had to say. But the amount she shares and what she does in learning. And the truth is that for me, I've had her saying in our home many times. And as a student of hers from 37 years ago, as a student, the nicest thing and the most encouraging thing for me is watching and having watched her grow. And I can tell you honestly that when she is struggling, whether it is Shachris, Mincha, or Mariv in our home, you feel that there is a real presence. But she will tell you it's a lot of hard work, okay? But worth it. And really that's what we want to be able to do tonight, is to go through and have a look, and we all come from different places. We all are in different places, okay? And every person is their own individual, and we have to take one notebook, okay? And everything really has to apply to everyone. I hope you're okay with me having introduced myself. Yeah. But I left out all the things. I know, it's fine, but I just decided we're going to start so that we don't miss out. So, really, when we have a look at things like halakha in anything, we see that every different home has their own energy. Okay? A woman's energy happens to be something very unique. Very unique. You know, you put 10 men in a room and they can double and have a minion. You can put 500 women in a room and there's no minion, but there's a lot of energy. Okay? And probably those women can overturn an entire town if they're all working together. And that's an amazing thing because women are a very powerful energy. And many years ago I heard from Israel Tauber that a woman is the electricity. Okay? And the electricity is always there. I see you need a few light bulbs changed here. But it's actually, especially like this.
But they make funny noises. So
Oh, no, that's okay. Especially like this so you can get the analogy. Okay? It's perfect for the analogy, so it's fine. Because even the ones that don't have light on still have electricity. Okay? So a woman is the electricity. She can fulfill her complete person by herself with that energy. A man is the light bulb. Get it? Yeah? Without a woman, there's no light. Okay? That's it. She is the energy. The home runs around a woman's energy. Okay? The positivity in a home is only with a positive woman. Any child, and you can ask my daughter, if they wanted another dress for Yom Tov or just another anything, anytime, you know when you walk into the house, can I ask Emma today or not? It just takes like a quick look, oh, I'll wait for tomorrow. Oh, she's there again. Oh my gosh, enough, you know. I want that dress already, it's going to be sold out, okay? The energy goes. Okay, when I leave the house, everything's neat and tidy as long as the cleaner's been there once I've left. And everybody will tell me in the house it stays that way until I come back, and then it takes 10 minutes and it's all, or whatever. The last night, I had to tell Naomi when she phoned to ask me for my passport that I couldn't really find it. Couldn't find my passport. And a few weeks ago, I actually misplaced a diamond bracelet that I've already lost once at a challah with over 1,000 people. It fell off my hand. And I asked everybody to look for it. And I found it, you know when? 3 days later. No, 3 days later, it was found by a cleaner in Allianz Park who gave it to the receptionist. Wow. Right? And I thought I'm going to phone one more time and just say, did you by any chance find the bracelet? Could you describe the bracelet to me? And I told her. Anyway, I have to say that I was like, I went there and I gave this one, I gave her £20 and I really felt like I should have given him one. The woman said, no, that's fine. She said, but for what? She says, you don't pay somebody for their honesty. So can you imagine this thing had been swept around? So when I couldn't find it out of my own house, I thought like, I don't know, Hashem sending a message. But I was so intent on finding, I had to find my passport. Rivets and Heather was leaving, we were leaving at the same time. I was running a bat mitzvah program. I had to get out and I was calm, I'd find it by the time I had to leave for the airport. Around 5 o'clock this morning. And my poor Naomi was stressing. Anyway, before I left, I found my bracelet. I found my bracelet. That was the first part of the money for Rabbi Meir Balanes. Okay? And then when I came home, I said, that's it. I took out £3, I put it in, I stood at my fridge, because that's where I have it on the magnet, otherwise I'd never be able to find that either. And I stood and I focused and I concentrated. And I went to the pouch that I'd been to at least 3 times before I found my bracelet. And it was actually in the pouch, but in an envelope. I don't know how it got into that envelope, but Hashem hid it from me so I could find my bracelet and my passport and I could get you. So, you know, so I sent a message quickly to all the girls. We did candle lighting and I told them when you stand by your Shabbos candles, you daven. Right? We pray. And that's what we want to pray. And Hashem and us, we can have the best connection as long as we self and open ourselves to it. So when we understand that the Torah and the halacha and the laws that Hashem gives us, He tells us you don't always get it. You don't have to get it. But what you have to know is that it's actually good for you if I tell you to do it. Any laws that we're given in the Torah is going to be something which is good for each of us in our own unique way, because Hashem gave it to us as a Jew. And that's what we take. We choose sometimes. I think I like this, I don't like that, you know, the things we like to do, the things that are more difficult to do, we don't like to do. But if Hashem gave it to us to do, He says it's good for you. So He gives us this halacha, which, believe me, we could probably find hundreds of reasons why we keep these laws according to psychologists, sociologists, and people who work in marriage therapy. They'll tell you there's nothing better. Okay? But that's not why we do it. It's a chok. It's a law that we don't understand. One day, and I hope all of us at Me'ah B'Yisrael Shana, and long before that when Mashiach comes, it's all going to be very clear to us to know why it is that Hashem wanted to give us these halachas that would sometimes, for some of us, be a lot more challenging than some other things. But then we look and we see, and we have in everything, we have our laws that are the derisa, that are direct from the Torah, and then we have our laws that are derived. Now, one thing that I learned is that everything that we do, and we do happily, is certainly going to be easier for us to do than doing thinking that it's a pain in the neck. Okay? Now, I don't mean that means that as soon as we have to separate, as soon as we know when we've actually become a letter for somebody who has to separate, right, that we have to be able to say, oh, I'm so excited about this, right? I say, you know, there's a big difference, you know, between the times when you've got to change bed linens. You know, it's nice if you've got a cleaner who's doing it for you, but really, I just, you know, the duvets, which is always fine. I grew up very spoiled. It took me a long time to learn to make a proper bed. My maid made the bed. It was crisp and tight, right? And it was sheets. There were no such a thing as fitted sheets. You know, growing up, no fitted sheets, and you could slip into your bed, and you were, you know, felt like a baby wrapped up in a, what do you call those things? Yeah, swaddle, and you could slip in, and sometimes I would like to be able to see in the morning if I could slip out and just straight in my bed. And then duvets came along. Then duvets, and all you had to do was to get the duvet on, but it was a lesson. My maid had to teach me how to put how to put the duvet on. So you definitely get a little bit spoiled. But then you come and you get married, and you've got to start making the beds, and separating and putting together, and and then, really? And how am I going to tell him when he comes home? You know, we didn't have phones in those days that you could send text messages, you know? It wasn't such a thing, sending a message, just by the way, I've started, whatever you use, whatever way you wanted to tell your husband, in a nice way, not like, stay away, okay? Like, let's just be a little bit, even if you feel that way right now, it's fine. You can feel that way, just don't say it, okay? You can still feel whatever you want, like, but it doesn't matter, we just don't say the things, okay? But you have to make your bed, so it becomes a process of everything that we're doing is all about. But imagine the day when we're getting there and it seems a long, long way off, and you're making your bed before you're getting ready to go to the mikveh. It's very different energy in the things that we have in thinking of making my bed and preparing our beds now. The energy becomes different, and it's a different thought process. And our whole thought process has to really be it's a big circle. There's no beginning and there's no end. It just continues. And it really does continue. And as long as we see it as a place of continuing, that the cycle, okay, is a cycle that's taking us in an upward spiral, okay, with our lives as we're growing, our growing together in our emotional, spiritual connecting place with the halachic is a spiral that we are going up towards, eventually till we get to a place where one no longer actually even needs the mikveh, according to halacha, but miss it sometimes just in that space of having to be able to create something. And there's actually a program, and I want to mention it because I think it's important. And you know, some people often feel like, and I think that there must be people here also thinking, I don't need this stuff now. Like, what did I come here and sit here for? Okay? So I'm going to say, I need you here. That's the first thing. Okay? And more than anything, it's an understanding. And you're in the most amazing community here. You have people coming in and moving around and where people are coming from. And we don't know where you're going to be sitting and who you're going to meet, where you're going to land up having a conversation with somebody. And because of something you heard that somebody asked a question here tonight, it triggers off and actually helps us to answer someone and helps them to engage in a beautiful thing, like hopefully getting to mikveh. And there's a project that's been started in Manchester by Daniela Arnold. So she actually met with a woman who very sadly lost her son, and she wanted to do it as an older teenage boy, and they wanted to do something that could really be in his service. And they have created a magnificent program, and it's called The Power of Once, the Once Experience. And the Once Experience is for someone who no longer needs to keep the halachas of separation, but by going to mikveh once, they'll be keeping Ta'as and Mishpacha, they'll be keeping this beautiful laws of sanctity and holiness in their home forever, just by going once to the mikveh. And I can tell you that there are some ladies that I've taken when their daughters have gotten married, that if I had to say to some people, she keeps Ta'as and Mishpacha, they'd look at you and say, really? But it really is something that is unbelievable because it's a one-time experience that most of them, anybody that I've taken that has gone once has always said, are you sure I can't go again? Are you sure I can't go again? And why was I cheated of this? Why did nobody tell me? The amount of mothers that said to me when they brought their daughters who had become religious, and they weren't religious at all, they said, why didn't my rabbi tell me about this? Why didn't the Rebbetzin tell us? All they spoke to us about was the wedding ceremony. And I actually just last week had a meeting with, and it's unusual nowadays, but with a young rabbi who's gone into a new community. And I happen to know the couple that he was going to be Masada Kedushin at, he was going to marry them. And I asked him what information he had offered them about mikveh. And he said, oh, they had so much to do and talk about and this and those other things that he didn't get to there. I said, well, you know what? You better make sure that you let them know that even after the wedding they can still do this. Because we want to give options. We want people to know that there's something that we can actually engage in. And it's something that belongs to us. It's something that is powerful and it's something that really belongs to us, and we can own it in our own special way by making sure that it becomes something that we learn about, and when it's a struggle, we've got people to talk to about what the actual struggle is. Because it is not always the easiest thing, and we all need different kinds of support in different stages of the whole halachic experience. So it is an important thing. If anybody wants to hear more about the Once Experience or knows anybody who might be interested, it's definitely something that needs to be spoken about. Now, as with everything, okay, we run the cycle. Okay, it's not your fault, by the way, that you get a period. Just be grateful. Okay, say thank you, Hashem. When we get these things, one of the things that honestly still is for me quite mind-boggling. I'm going to be going in March, I think for the 7th time, to Poland. And it always blows my mind that women's periods just stopped. They just stopped. And whoever you speak to women like from often, and many of them did merit to have children. Very, very sadly, there were many that were experimented on that weren't blessed. But the challenge, nevertheless, was something which everybody has at different stages. And one of the things that women do is they blame themselves for having a period. It's such a funny thing, like, oh, you know, this is what I should have made for. The magnificent thing is that your cycle becomes part of the home. It works and builds around you. I always used to think, you know, that in homes and places where people didn't actually keep mikvah, that their lives kind of were much more exciting. That there wasn't, you know, there was no break during their times and their cycles. And I found it very, very fascinating that after about 5 years of marriage, many couples would actually say, it's not true. And when people were sometimes, I used to encourage many women that if they weren't going to be keeping mikveh during the thought of mikveh, during when they were thinking of starting their families, that they should come back and learn and go to mikveh. And I would hear some very, very, very interesting things. People would actually say to me, oh my gosh, you know, I've been to mikveh now 3 months, and sometimes they would become pregnant straight away, or within their time, sometimes a lot longer, whatever it would be. But the amazing thing was that they would actually say to me, I can't actually believe it. You know, I think I've been together with my husband more in these 3 months than over the last year and a half. Because lives are busy, and they don't notice each other. So they don't actually notice when there's a time that they actually can't have physical connection, or when they can. And it just goes, because tomorrow is tomorrow, tomorrow and tomorrow. You know, there's a great thing I used to have in my kitchen that used to say, tomorrow I start the diet. And I had yummy fish and chips today. Right? So everything is about tomorrow. So when we come to a learning process and we see that as soon as we get our periods, or as soon as we do have any kind of bleeding that would actually make a woman somebody who has to separate, the word niddah sometimes makes us, I don't know, trying to be looking for a nice way of finding one thing that somebody doesn't really find offensive. There's always going to be something that will. So we'll just leave it at that. And so we have, obviously, with everything, different halachic rulings. I always tell anybody whenever we finish, just remember, you've got your rabbi, the rabbi, whoever we ask our shilas to, our Mara de Asras, whatever. But we have different, in the Ashkenazi communities, we count actually over 5 and 7 days, and here, I know the ruling is 4 days plus 7. Now, for people who have short enough periods to be able to start counting and only have 4 plus 7, there could be, and any questions, halachic rulings, I'm not giving any psak, okay? There's no psak given here, and I'm going to make that very, very clear. I actually was zoichet to a very close relationship, well, a rabbinical, my Dayan Lopian, and I call him my Dayan Lopian. And I think there's not many days that go past that think, okay, you know, and I'm sure that Rebbe Tzendopyan would be able to answer for us most of the things, but she won't ever and doesn't say anything. But to tell you the truth, that for me, in London and from Leeds, I started calling Dan Lopian. And the one thing that I did find was that we have to understand, you know, Yirach Hashem, you're blessed here with an amazing Rav who is able to look to help the idea, and the most beautiful thing that is very difficult for people to understand, in secular, especially in a more secular world, that when you ask a rabbi a question in niddah, right? When you ask a question, the rabbi wants to find a way that you can be together. He's not looking for ways to make it more difficult. The ultimate thing and most important thing we understand is that in these laws of Taz Mishpacha, you know what is the mitzvah? What is the mitzvah? Right? We separate, we count our days, then we start doing our checks, and we'll go through it more, but then we go to the mikvah. Is going to mikvah the mitzvah of keeping Taz Mishpacha? No. It's just the next step. It's just a step in the cycle. So mikvah then will take us to the mitzvah of understanding where this is. So if this is the mitzvah that we want to keep, Harabbanim want us to be able not to be separated. Not to be separated. I just told the girls today in school, who was Miriam? You know, Miriam, honestly, I always think when I see Miriam with her tambourine, I've got a tambourine, by the way. I just got a present of a tambourine. But, and somebody she put a pasuk on the chest to correct it, and I keep phoning her, so I'm waiting for my tambourine. Do you realize that you're stopping Mashiach coming? I have not got my tambourine in my house to go and greet Mashiach. So, when Miriam stands at the Yam Suf, okay, when Miriam stands with her tambourine at the Yam Suf, and she is with the woman praising Hashem. You know what a tambourine is? I don't know what that is. Spanish, French. Oh gosh. I speak English. I don't know what tambourine is in Hebrew. Okay? I'll tell you what my dream really is. My dream was when the year that we had 5,000 women, okay, in a marquee in London making challah, I just would close my eyes and I say, can you imagine if all these women had their tambourines? I tried to get somebody to sponsor me 5,000 tambourines. It was a bit expensive. And I wanted the wording on it. But what does it do for us? Miriam said to her father, how can you separate? How can you separate? You don't want Paro to kill the boys. Well, you're worse than Paro. You're stopping the boys and girls. And that's really what we're about. Because when we build a community, we build first the mikvah. You build a community, we build first the mikvah. You can have a school in this room. You can have a shul in this. I've seen the way you can have your schools in your shul. And I went to the school today, and I said, it's this side, because I'm looking there as well. I said, oh, what is a couch? And I said, this is the kind of school that all the girls in Beis Yaakov, London would love. The girls are chilling on the cat. No, they weren't. They were studying. It was great. It was great. But it's such an amazing thing. Okay, so we have here, and we can have, but what do we have to build? We have to build the mikvahs. We have to have a mikvah. Okay? I'm sorry, but I have to share this. I thought about only sharing it at the end, but I'm going to share it now. Because for those of you who know something about communist Russia, okay, during the communist revolution, there was no such a thing allowed as keeping any Torah and mitzvahs. Okay, and you have many people who risked their lives, and we have many Russian Jews who have built unbelievable things today after leaving Russia. But during the times of Stalin, all the synagogues and mikvahs that looked after and served the huge population was actually closed. And this young woman says that her shul on Shakovetsky, I should say I know it by now, but I can't, anyway, street near their house, and a few of the small shtiblach stayed open. Theirs was the big shul, but it had a small minyan of 10 weekdays and maybe 50 on Shabbos. Most of them were elderly. Younger people knew better than to risk being seen going to shul. As for mikvahs, since they weren't needed to show to tourists, Stalin had them closed down. In Kiev, however, Tata, my father, wasn't about to let the communists get away with it. And since their apartment was in the basement, we dug a big hole under the table big enough to be a kosher mikvah. We lined it with waterproof cement and made a cement lid for it. And it was ready to be filled. How to fill it in accordance with Halachot might have proved difficult, and I can guarantee you no way here in Gibraltar would you have managed this. But because in Russia there was snow on the ground for most of the year, they could fill the sacks with snow, empty it into the mikvahs, and the snow would melt, and they had a perfectly kosher mikvah. You can imagine just how cold. Okay? So they found a way to lower something called a samovar. It was a contraption that they would put top of a shower stone, but they put hot coals into it and they would lower it into the water. And that would basically take the chill off. Sometimes a woman would travel hundreds of miles by train just to use our mikveh. I went today to have a look at your magnificent new mikveh. And that would have to be the day that the samovar was out of order. You wouldn't think that women would be eager to stand in ice-cold water over their head in the middle of the Russian winter, but these women did. And Mama used to say of them, if a woman immerses herself in the ice, her children will never be burnt in the fire of Gehenna. And the mikvah's lid was heavy and had to be pulled up with an iron ring, that tata that my father had set into it. Mama always gave this mitzvah to the woman who had come to use the mikvah, and as she bent down to grab the ring, Mama would deliver this little speech from the bottom of her heart, as always with her. Jewish daughter, this iron ring is actually a link of the golden chain that binds you and me to our holy mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, and all the pious women in every generation. Remember, a chain is only as strong as every link in it. If, God forbid, this link should snap, then the whole chain is ruined from start to finish. So grasp it tightly, this link of yours, and be proud that you are upholding the golden chain of holiness that spans 4,000 years unbroken. I want you to know that I have told people that it's not exactly true. Because you know it's beautiful? If you have a look at any link that you have on any chain or wherever you have a link, there's a joint. A link is always made from a piece of metal of something that's joined. And you can open that link and you can resolder it. We should never feel that when we've let ourselves down at any stage, maybe we missed something we should have done. Maybe we weren't as careful as we should have been. Maybe even people skip once or twice. But we have that ability, which is magnificent. We can just open that and resolder. And that's called tshuva. So it's an amazing place. And this golden chain is something that you can't just give to anybody. It's ours. No one else gets this. Nobody else has given this. In fact, nobody else can do it. Because it's only special for us. Like the gift that we're given on Shabbos. Okay? Those are the gifts that we're given as Jews. And Rabbi Tzimhela actually was telling us, she said, we have to be real. You know, nobody wants to know that anybody is different. We don't like being different. But we are happy, I hope, if we say that we're different from a zebra. Right? She was saying, what are our potentials? What do we think and how do we learn and find out what we're capable of doing? Right? So she uses the example of a zebra. A zebra knows what it does. A zebra, as I would normally say. Okay? What does it do? It looks the same as every other zebra next to it. Okay? It eats. The female zebras give birth, they feed their young, and then that's it. That's their tafkid in life. And so the chain moves up. And so the chain also moves up to any person who's born into the non-Jewish world that has the Shivas Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 mitzvahs, commandments of the children of Noach. And then you have the Jew. And it's amazing. But there's a difference. There's a difference in that ultimate goal of that closeness to Hashem that we're given. And it's a gift. And this is a gift. Okay? And that's why the child place also, she said the place for Gerim is when a person chooses to become part of the Jewish people, then Hashem changes with them. Then Hashem changes with them. The first time that I ever took a young woman that I was learning with to mikvah, it changed my mikvah experience. Changed my experience. I'm watching her, done everything, done all the learning, she's had all the questions, she's passed all her tests, she goes in, she chooses a name. And the final last thing that she has to do is to go into the mikvah. And I'm going through this like, whoa, really? Looking at her now before she goes down into the water. She's in a house coat. The door was closed, that much open so the Dayanim can hear the bracha. And I'm looking at her and I'm saying to myself, she's not Jewish. And she goes down and she comes up and she's Jewish. And then she can make a bracha. And then she can make a bracha. Because she went down and she became Jewish. And then she can make a bracha. That's why we go down, make the bracha, and then go down again. And I said, if Hashem can give us halachas and things that a person can follow this, and that's what they can do, and they go from somebody who was not considered part of Klal Yisrael, and that change, oh my gosh, how much more so is this having an effect on each and every one of us? That's the effect. It changes you. We have to allow ourselves to feel the change. We have to allow ourselves to feel the connection of holding onto that link, onto that golden chain. It is pure gold. Since this last Hanukkah, it was a very special Hanukkah. Somehow, I'm not sure why. I think maybe I was just much more focused on every day sitting and davening by the candles and making sure that I had to get a Dvar Torah out every night, which I don't even know why I decided to take it on, but I did. But the one powerful thing that I really found is understanding that our menorah comes from one piece of gold. And either when Mashiach comes and we need it for the Beis HaMikdash, it's just going to go and be there, or it's going to be carved out of all the branches. Our branches are the people of all of us here, outside of Eretz Yisrael. But we're all part of that one piece of gold. And as long as we remember and focus on every single Jew, every single one of us, we're all part of the same. We're one piece. We're from one tiny part. And we all moved out. And now, as we're watching Kibbutz Galuyot and watching all the different people coming back to the Holy Land, back to Eretz Yisrael, where we'll all get to, we're all going back to that central piece of the gold. But it's all the one source. So it's a very important thing to understand where we're coming from. So as soon as we get to this wonderful things of halakha, and we know now, we have to decide for ourselves, have we become a niddah or not, okay? We learn from understanding the size that we'll see if a person has a normal flow and they would not walk out of their door without putting either a pad or a tampon or something, then you probably think that I am getting my period and it's going to start. And that's why we say women were given this, not men. You know why? Men would just live in denial. No way. Okay? Women are so strict that they're stricter on themselves than they need to. You know, that's the one thing that I find. Women are actually more strict on themselves than they actually need to be. That the more they ask, the more they actually find out what's allowed, rather than the other way around. You know, so no, I'm not going to ask, you must be mad. Did you see that color? I wouldn't ask. And then we ask Silas and we start learning. Well, you can ask something and you think it's one thing because you don't know what a color is. You've got absolutely no clue. And when we start hearing about the word clean, because Shivas Nakim, the 7 clean days, you think Persil. I was going to think of a South African brand that suddenly came into my mind. I'm thinking, why that? Anyway, but it's got to be Persil clean. It does not. We have to understand and know that there are different colors that would make a woman a niddah. And she can have a color that is brown, that it could even be bigger than whatever it needs to be, but it is not a color that would make her a niddah. And we have to learn to do things, sometimes to know, no white toilet paper. No white toilet paper. I still can tell you one thing I'm shocked about, that no man has yet made black toilet paper. They got black panty liners. They got black panty liners. Okay, now let me ask you, you tell a woman don't look at the toilet paper. Yeah? Don't look. So the only way, you know, and then people would ask me, when I used to work in the JLE, so it was on Golden Tree Road, and I started something there, and I actually put at the back of in the women's toilets, I put badika cloths, and we had a little box that had everything that a woman needs, okay, including badika cloths, because I used to have people come in and ask. So we're sitting one day in a share. Thank you very much. We're sitting one day in a share, and Rabbi Aubrey Hirsch is giving the class, and somebody walks in and says, so he says, what? So the girl standing there, she said, I don't know, she asked me for a badika cloth. So I happened to overhear it, and I just went to the front, and I make announcements and tell people, I don't know if they still do it there, but certainly behind every door is a bag where there was a packet of badika cloths. I have to tell you, I looked into getting coloured toilet paper, but they've got the ones that come in the boxes, and they are exceptionally expensive, between white and pink. So when I put it to ask if we could get the pink, and they looked at the price, they all said, no, tell them not to look. I said, but I don't think a day went by where somebody didn't come and ask me and say, oh, I just looked at you. Just white, oh, okay, white toilet paper, we'll ask the Rav, okay? Now, the things that we don't think about just because, but if every single person, most people that I know, had to go back and ask questions on all their cloths and all the questions and all the things that they thought weren't good, I'm prepared to guarantee they would actually be, at least 50% of them would be fine. And I have done some very strange things over the years of actually leaving people babysitting my children. Well, I ran to the Rav because they wouldn't go, and they had to go to mikveh that night, and they saw something, and I certainly wasn't giving a psak. So one matzah yom tov, it was Shavuos, and I literally went to 4 or 5 Rabbanim's houses, and I kept just begging the mikveh lady just to wait 3 more minutes. I knew the family, and it was very important that I would get a psak, and it must have been about 12:15, I don't know what time it was, well past midnight, and it was absolutely amazing, but he gave me the psak that it was fine, and it was literally, she says, Nicole's just going to leave, can you talk to her, I'm too embarrassed to ask. Anyway, she waited, and I have to tell you, it was actually a very beautiful one that she waited for, because she did have a baby 9 months later, but it was kind of like something that, you know, I actually used to question myself, and I used to question myself and say, would you go and run around for yourself the way you'll run around for other people? And I have to tell you that I, over the years, started making sure that I would go and check all the things that I would send other people and tell them to. I became much, much more lenient on myself. It wasn't lenient, it was halachic. I thought it was being lenient, and it wasn't lenient. There was nothing that was wrong, and we just have to find and ask and know what there is and how we can do this, because it is for sure not something that Hashem wants to make our lives difficult in any way. That is for sure. So know that if we have colors that are red or black, those colors they're probably red or probably black. The black you should really always ask. Your red, you know what your red is. But I'm actually, interestingly enough, and I'm going to mention it because it's such an important thing, but I have a good friend who's actually a doctor, and she has been doing, she's becoming a bodeke with Leisha, somebody who helps. If you ever need, please know that you've got somebody here. I don't know where you give your numbers out. I just have to tell you what a chashuv thing it is, how important it is. And it is really something that a lot of women do not want to go and ask, certainly not doctors, certainly not men, to help, to check, to see if there is either a petza, a sore, or whether it's something that's actually, that would make them a niddah. And so having women who do this for women is really what we all really need to be doing. You know, Hatzale in America has a whole trained group of women, right? They do not have to have a man come to their house now to help them deliver. Hatzale has women who do all the woman things, okay? They need soon to get it to Eretz Yisrael and all over. It just changes everything for people. But I can tell you that having a bodeket, having somebody who can help you and check for you and know where the halachic requirements of what would make a person have to separate or not, is an incredibly important person to have in your community. So please make sure that you make use of it. So somebody who I know, she's had cesareans, and it could be, and she's had a challenging time getting pregnant, because what happens is that she has her period, and then it stops, and then it starts. So by the time she actually will get to mikvah, it could be she's already missed ovulation, and she is a doctor learning to be a bodeket, and we're hoping that this will be one of the Yeshuas. But I can't remember her name, Dr. whatever, who does some of the training, so she explained that sometimes when a person has scar tissue, there can be a certain way that the scar's actually formed, and it will catch some of the blood when it's coming out, and then it will actually sometimes look like fresh blood when it comes out a few days later, but it's not. So we're just working with Taharenu, which is another amazing organization, to see how they're going to be able to decipher whether the delayed bleeding is actually fresh bleeding or it's being caught behind the scar. And it's amazing the things that you get to learn. And I always think that it's important to say these things, because there are people that are suffering with it and they don't want to ask, okay? Because they think that they're the only person in the entire world that has shilas to ask. There's nobody else. But if you go in Eretz Yisrael to ask shilas, you will be actually shocked. I think the first time I had to once go to Rav Noivet, my husband wasn't around to go, so I went to my going to Rav Noivet, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to absolutely die. And there's this whole bunch of black men standing, and I knew Rebbetzin Noivet well. My husband actually used to eat lunch with Rav Noivet when we had our twins, and in Eretz Yisrael, and there are these men, and they're standing outside, and they are discussing like cloths. And I'm thinking, you stupid person. That's your wife's, and you're standing And you know what was more amazing to me? What was amazing to me was that they didn't even think about it like that. And you can't get, as a woman, you can't get your head around it. You know, it's mine. And nobody cares. They don't care whose it is. You know? It doesn't make a difference. So I just knocked on the Rebbinson's door, and I left before all of them. Anyway, there could have been a chicken in my bag, you know, you wanted somehow this chicken to start quack quack so they don't know what you're asking. You know, it's like we really think that, you know, we really do think these things, and nobody actually really cares. You know, it's sort of like when you're going to the mikvah, and here also you don't all drive, right? So I remember in Eretz Yisrael, you were walking and you take your bag. And you think every single person on the street is watching you. Like everybody. And they all know where you go. Right? And the funny thing is, they don't even care. They don't even think about it. But we do. Okay, so it is important that we know. So we have to be able to also know something called biology. You have to know a bit of your parts of your body. I do find it interesting when I'm teaching from girls that they often just don't know their biology when they're getting married. I'm thinking this is time that you have to learn your biology because it's important for keeping mikveh as well as for being married. So it really is an important thing, and we actually become more comfortable with who we are. You know, God gave you this wonderful covering. It's fine, okay? It's okay, right? We have to understand that this is something that we're given also again as another gift. We have to know the colors, and when we find anything that it's not during the time of our normal period, we have to be aware of color that you find it on, and also of the size of the stain, and knowing where you are. Okay? Have you just had a baby? Are you coming close to menopause? You know, all the different times and all the different, somebody just gets married, right? Right from the beginning. And we don't know, and there's tons of everything in between. There's from this end to that end of the spectrum and everything in between. If you don't know, ask. Don't be scared to ask. You know, people suffer even in pain because they're too embarrassed to ask. There's no necessity for anything. Okay? Sometimes even from doing badikas. You know? Sometimes people just cannot do badikas. That's it. That's how it is. We have to ask a shayla. Find out. How many badikas do I have to do? We all know the halachic, exact, basic, minimum halachic requirements as making sure to do a hefsek, one on day 1, one on day 7, and there's everything in between. Okay? So we have to know for ourselves. Okay? We have to know for ourselves. You know, sometimes people want to teach, so there's things that we all hear these words like chumrah and halacha and stringencies and for keeping the basic halacha. So we have to know what is halacha. Right? How can I go? If I want to go kosher, it's got to be after my 4 days into the 5th, so it's 4 days. Okay? Always before sunset. It is very important to know your timing. Okay? You want to do a hefsek tara, we want to be ready. Right? In London, 3:30. The amount of questions, I used to get text messages. Right? I used to get text messages, what time shkia? Oh, I'm doing school rota. You know how many people I used to meet outside school and slip them a packet of clothes? I always kept it in my car. Right? I had a lot of funny things. Yeah? I mean, I have to tell you that there are at least 4 or 5 or 6 people that I know, you know, that got that did their hefsek tara at Torah Tamima Primary School in the staff room. In the toilet, in the staff toilet. Okay, and that was the most frustrating thing, but we all know what time sunset is. Yeah? The girls, after they get married, they're running backwards and forwards to bring across, changing everything they ask people to buy them. Yeah, they put it on their list, that's what they want, and then they all want to change it, and they're very upset because John Lewis will only change about 25%. She's nodding. Didn't you ask them to buy them for you in the first place? That's exactly what I want. I drove my poor chassan mad. I was crying. My chassan didn't want to talk to me for 3 days after going shopping. And then I want to change it all. You know, sort of like, and then it's in the winter. And suddenly, they phone you and they're in the middle of Brent Cross. Shkia's in 3 minutes. Run to Boots, buy a packet of baby wipes, and go to the toilet and just do a hefsek. Just do it. And keep it to check outside. Just do it. Okay? Go and do it.
You do it with the big one.
You can do white to clean. You can do a white to clean. And then do one as a badika if you don't have any cloths on you. And keep it, and hang on, there's a very important part. You can't check it inside Brent Cross. There is no daylight. Not in the day, not in the night. There is no such a thing as light in Brent Cross. There's also no air. Okay, so you must never spend too much time in Brent Cross. All the husbands say no to say I actually know why I hate shopping. 10 minutes in Brent Cross and I've got to get out of there. You can't, yeah, that's how. Much nicer shopping, I think, but I did very well. Walk in, nothing here. That's how I shop. My children, they drive me, I drive them all mad. We can go shopping. My children never like going shopping with me. No, let's go.
You said you have to check the daylight.
So
The next morning as possible one.
That night you start, you intend, if you think it's fine, you make sure that you always start counting. Always start counting. The worst thing that can happen is that you'll count again. That's the worst thing that can happen. That's the worst thing that can happen. One of the important things with, and I know that there's a psak that one can do hefsek 1 and 7. The challenge with it sometimes can be is if in the day you have a stain that will make it that it's not kosher, and you only did 1 and you used to not doing, so just be aware of your body, okay? I learned always tov eleha bracha, a woman that is extra careful with these things. A person has to know we can do up to 16 bedikas. You can do a hefsek, you can do a moch, you can do 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 after. And it always has to be, but any one that you do always has to be in daylight. Okay, but we have to know that it is kosher to do a hefsek, 1 on day 1, any time between sunrise and before sunset, and 1 on day 7, any time between sunrise and before sunset. That's the important thing. Okay? Shabbos. Erev Shabbos is very difficult. You know? You've got to do your check. Okay, so we'll have a bath. You're ready, you've washed, you're ready to do your badika cloth, your hefsek, and then the urn, and the chicken soup, and the children. And it's like, oh my gosh, and then you light your candles, and it's time's gone. Right? And then you think, okay. Don't try and excuse yourself because of a Shabbos. Okay? I can tell you that I know women, I'm going to talk about this more when we talk about preparation in our next session. I can tell you that I know people who specifically avoided ever doing a hefsek on a Friday afternoon. And so that they didn't have to go to mikvah on a Friday night. Okay? And I can tell you that it's not worth it for anybody to do.
Can you do it Friday morning to make sure you don't forget?
You can. Yeah. As long as you can, as long as you're able to, then yes. As long as you've done, listen, as long as you've done, if it happens, say you do your hefsek on Thursday afternoon, yeah? You do you just say it should be Thursday afternoon you do your hefsek, okay? And you had a question on it. Friday morning you do your normal badika, and that's for your day 1. Okay? You didn't ask a shala on your Thursday cloth, and you decide that you're also going to do Shabbos. Okay? This is where it does help you to have the extra. So we do Shabbos, then you ask your shala on the Thursday. The shala for your Thursday isn't kosher. So because you've got a check from Friday morning, that becomes your hefsek. And then you have to have had 1 for 1. So one of the things to think about. No, it will be your hefsek.
You just stop counting
because you considered it kosher.
Yeah.
You considered it kosher, asking a shayla, you started counting.
Yeah.
As long as you started counting, you've started counting. Okay? And again, if you're not sure, Baruch Hashem, we have Rabbanim to ask. Okay? You've got a Rav, you phone the Rav and you ask him.
You should also never stop counting.
Never stop counting.
Because you said, I'm saying that
in your mind,
never
as
stop
long
counting.
as you're continuing to count, you can carry on counting.
If you had a shayla on Thursday and you were doing your badika on Friday, should you not also have done a moch, just in case?
So again, you have to ask your shayla about doing a moch, Okay, no, the time. Okay, so let me tell you this. I actually did not check here with the Rav, so we need to double check this. The only time you need to have a mask is when you had bleeding on that day. Okay, but if a woman is susceptible to, and it irritates her, and it causes, I know many people who from Rav Scheinberg and Rav Moshe Sternbuch, and you can't get more machmir. Okay. No more. No more. Okay, after a baby, no more.
No more. I just told you.
Okay, after babies, no more. Right? You should know that Dianopian says any girl for the first 9 months, after she gets married, standard, no more.
Even if she bleeds in the Shiva Nakim, even if she bleeds in the 7 days.
She's got to ask a shada. If anybody bleeds during the 7 in her Shivas Nakim, you double check. Ask the Rav if you need to or not. Okay, but don't just do. Okay, I'll tell you something, and this is why I hate being recorded, especially on these things. Because all evidence you have will be held against you. Okay?
Do you want us to stop it?
It's the whole thing, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. Okay? Anything that the rabbis don't agree with, they can take it up.
We'll cut it.
I sent them anyway. I said, didn't you hear? I said, you've got to ask the Rav. So there's no responsibility here, Bunny.
In the event of an emergency and then you have to have sex, coming back to the baby wipe that you suggested, would a tampon also...
Okay, so I'll tell you the most embarrassing moment. No, it's not the most. I've had other embarrassing moments.
Or alternatively, or consensual, so like a wipe, also it might irritate because it's got alcohol inside, so looking at...
You get the baby wipes with nothing on it.
Perspective, looking at it from that side.
100%.
What about also travel tissue? Travel pack of tissue that...
You've got to be careful that it's tissue that doesn't shred. Any tissue,
Travel packs of tissue.
some of the travel ones, but then they wet.
But you can hurt yourself.
Travel. Which one?
But you can wet it. Rebbitzins up, can you wet it first? Because I know with Jada Ramos that you can wet it first.
To wet what?
The tissue and then do it.
Because it will spoil the colouring if it's on her.
Kitchen paper, definitely.
Oh my gosh, we're going to kill
If you're talking about those,
Well, you'll kill yourself.
You never remember. Baking
okay, please feel free to just quietly, if anybody wants to, please quietly get up and get a drink, okay? Not all of you are lucky enough to have no need filling your cups. Okay. A tissue will shrink.
If you wet it first.
Even if you wet it stays white. Okay? You cannot use a tissue. It has to be material or cotton. Now I have to tell you that, rubbish wipes. The rubbish wipes are the strongest, but you can get...
If anyone wants or to share it.
So listen, no, it's true. It's always very important if you do use a wipe or something, make sure, it's like when you do any cloth and you're not going to look and throw it away straight away, right? If you put it into an envelope, now I don't know if the envelopes are much better these days, but certainly they used to sometimes, the color inside the envelope used to come off onto a tissue. I mean onto the Badika cloths, right? And also the Badika cloths today are much better quality.
I'm not sure if it's actually, but I was told by one of the two of them that toilet paper or tissue aren't recoverable.
Right, for Badika cloths, that's right. So you can't just... Yeah. And that's why, if a person does go to the toilet, even if the toilet paper is white, and they see something on the toilet paper, and they flush it, and then they will phone and say they're feeling all guilty because they... And wait, I'll tell you, all the conversations are the same. All the conversations are the same. I think I saw something on the toilet paper which was white, and I flushed it.
It's not an egg.
And then I saw it go down. And do I have to do a badika?
No.
And the answer is no, because the paper is not tissue, it's not recoverable. And so it's flushed as long as you don't see or have any other feeling or anything. After that, you don't have to worry about
So I
it.
have a question.
Okay.
I teach colours, yeah. I did the cook with Taylor Abramov, and she told me for the colours, the first time that they got so that they don't hurt themselves, she said they should use, if it's nerve-wracking for them, KY first and then do a deeper.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
But you should, but not everybody holds it.
What baby are you?
Not everybody does.
Baby
hold
oil.
it.
Maybe I'll have one person over
To use KY jelly.
What baby
KY.
But
oil?
it's got to be very careful.
That baby oil as well.
Or
But
Vaseline.
it's fine, it's usually before they get
I think a colour can get it. I think it's also
For
a matte
colours,
they
for
can, but
colours.
not.
Yeah, for the colours I'm asking, yeah.
They have to be careful. Yeah.
What?
Thinking about baby wipes in case that you don't have any medical. What's happened if you don't think that it's clear enough, the baby wipe, because it's wet?
You squeeze them out. Firstly, you have to squeeze it out. So now if somebody is also squeezing.
But this option is only if you have to.
You're not going to do this like when you're at home.
Exactly.
So it means when you're in Brent Cross and there's a 50% off sale and you have to get your sale things and you suddenly look at your clock and you think, oh my gosh, shkias in 1 minute, and you run and you get your baby wipes. We don't do this lechatchila at all. Always do it. But the nuchas hanefesh calm when you've got 10 minutes and you go and you shower and then you wait until you do your badikas.
Kelly, we can't hear.
When I have horrible behaviors without anything, I'm usually wearing white underwear.
Okay, so
And
we
there's
can
a
do that for
patch
sure.
on the back that I would be quite happy to cut out if there was ever Shola.
Okay.
Give over.
Then one can actually, okay. If you are, okay. I'll tell you when that can happen. If you're away on holiday, okay, it wouldn't be likely that it's going to happen in Red Cross again, because you're not going to have time to go buy scissors, cut it out, and use it. We're saying that you could cut off a piece of or you don't even have to cut it. Oh my God. Actually, use. You just have to be careful. You do have to be careful because the reason that
Kelly made us laugh.
so the reason that cloths are a size that are easy to use, okay, or that you can put it on your finger and that it will be able to clean inside the crevice, okay? Whereas when you have a pair of underwear, it's got too much material and it might actually cause you more pain. I have to tell you, I was told by somebody and I actually didn't listen. I cut up a pair of underwear rather than my husband's shirt. Yeah. We didn't have a choice of when we were going away, and we got married in South Africa and his sister was getting married and we went away for a few days. Anyway, it wasn't a choice, I wanted to get to Cape Town and I needed a cloth for a hefsek. And I didn't have any, and let me tell you something, there's a place, if you've never heard of it, you know that you can't buy Badika cloths in New Zealand, okay, if you have been to New Zealand. So I called somebody to ask them what I should do, and it was really long enough ago that baby wipes were actually very thick, and you only needed one baby wipe to clean a very, very dirty baby. I would say that's how good they were. In fact, I can actually remember they were called chubs. They were in a big yellow container, and I used to shake them, and I used to take them with me from South Africa, and it was like, you know, you think of the things that you take from South Africa to Israel, you know, shampoo and baby wipes, I don't know. Anyway, and they actually just said to me, the truth is that the best thing would be is to cut your husband's shirt, and then I thought of something better. I cut my underwear. But it was just so that because they said that it's important, you know, to have, that's why it's cut the size, okay, so that it doesn't have all the other material that goes with it, that's all. Okay, so an important thing also that we should be aware of is that one of the things that we have is a smear or any kind of testing that people would need where we need to have an internal examination. If a woman ever needs to have anything taken out from inside the womb, okay, it's even if a needle is more than a few millimeters, and it's an important information for a person to know how many millimeters would actually go into the opening of a womb. It used to be in the times of the Gemara, okay, that a woman could feel her womb open, even if she had absolutely no bleeding or anything. She would become a niddah in every sense. No bleeding, no nothing, because she felt her womb open. Okay, there are some people who feel ovulation. Okay, there are some people who, you know, are much more in touch with their bodies and with things. But certainly, we would actually have to say, even if a woman nothing, she wouldn't bleed. Okay, if she has the womb opened at whatever amount, so we would always ask a question. If somebody ever needs to go for any medical things, don't just say to the doctor, it's fine. You went to the mikveh last night, he now wants to do something else. No! You tell him you'll just wait, you phone your rabbi, find out if it's going to make you a niddah. If it's going to make you a niddah, and it's not urgent for today, then you make another appointment, okay? Sometimes people will go, they'll have the test and then they phone. Yeah. Don't do that, okay? If you're just going for a regular smear to check your cervical health, it does not make you a niddah, okay? But my psak was given to me, tell people to go after they've been to mikveh, okay? And not to look. After you've been, put away dark underwear and don't look. Do not go during the Shibbos Nakim, okay? Because you might just have to start counting again, right? And most times the doctors will tell you when and whatever, but it's perfectly, the best time is actually to go, usually the time that you're going to mikveh. So wait a day or two and go and have smears and everything done, and they are important to do, so don't ignore them, okay? We have amazing bodies. Your bodies tell you also when things are right and when things are wrong. Do not ignore them, okay? One of the really important things also is that for young people to know, for women to know, that a good time to even check yourselves, your breasts and things, is around when you do your preparation for mikvah. Just do it, right? There's nothing better. Yeah, there's a Rebbetzin in town, in London, who just, Baruch Hashem, had a huge nace. She went to visit her daughter in America, and she needed a new bra, and she went to be fitted. And the mikveh lady said to her daughter, you have to take your mother to a doctor as soon as possible. And she had a huge lump already removed. It was cancerous, and Baruch Hashem, it hasn't spread. But she didn't even know. She was shocked. And when this woman actually went to the doctor, she was shocked because it wasn't small. It wasn't small. She didn't even ever think about such a thing. And she's 70. And she didn't even think about it. You know? So we have to know that we have to be aware of our bodies. Okay? Be aware of your body. Sometimes when a person is having persistent spotting and persistent staining, we have to go and ask, and sometimes we need to go to a doctor. You know, I can tell you many people that I know that have been in early stages of pregnancy, and they haven't been able to get clear bedikas, and they've gone to the doctor, bless you, and all the doctors say, get home, put your feet up, and daven. That's what they say in Eretz Yisrael. They don't say the same thing here. Okay? But, well, in London. But seriously, Our bodies are here to tell us things and listen to it, okay? And our halachas can only help us when we make sure that we are being careful. Okay, so what I'm going to really do is if there are any more questions, and let's just quickly just run through to understand that we all know where we are. So on our 4th day, or for those that keep 5, we always, please be prepared. Don't wait for 3 minutes to shkia. Okay, you know that your period's ending. Look at your timetables. I saw actually at the mikvah that you have calendars and calendar times. I have these that I had that we made in London for London and Manchester. I was laughing because I said they're very small because we need to get all. I wanted to do each one on a page. So I said by the time somebody's like that, they probably don't need the mikvah anymore. I decided it was time to get reading glasses when I was benching, and my one son opposite me, and I was like this, and he says, Emma, are you trying to bench or pass me the bencher? Okay, so, you know one of the things that we forget? Like, did I get my period Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? What day is today?
Yeah.
What time? Anything. The minute, as soon as you get, just mark it down. It's so simple. Okay, you've got phones today. Everybody uses different things. I like having things on paper. Somebody said to me once she used to make a mark on her calendar. But one of her children kept asking, what is that? Well, she made a little bit, it was a silly mark. She made like this big thing. Like, she said, just be a little bit, put like a dot or whatever. You don't have to make a big thing of like, what's that on the calendar? Yeah. So just mark down, know when our period started, because you've also got to know, was it 4 days or 5 days? If you can't remember, if it's 3 days or 4 days and you can't remember, we have to wait extra, okay? You can't wait less, we rather wait extra, okay? So just mark it down. Know, count your days, be aware of the time of sunset, of shkia, and always try for an hour to an hour and a half before. Because you might get a badika that really is questionable, okay? And you don't have time to go to ask the Rav. You wait 10, 15 minutes, wash again, and do another check. I would always say to somebody, don't come more than 3 times. More than 3 times will just drive you mad and irritate you, so your internal. So just leave it and wait till the next day to start your counting. Okay, we make sure that we have our 7 complete days and 7 complete nights. Okay, whatever day you do our hefsek, it's very simple. Whatever day of the week you do your hefsek, you will go to the mikvah the following week at night. Okay, when Tehila Abramov started going around the world teaching, one of the things that was most upsetting, and it happened in 2 towns, where they had the Rebbitzins of the town was going on at the beginning of the 7th night rather than the beginning of the 8th. Okay? So I actually started telling people you go at the beginning of the 8th day. Okay? Don't even say the word. You count 7 complete days and we go at the beginning of the 8th day. Okay? Because it's okay.
You go on that.
You go the night.
We go at Nacht, yeah.
That was 8, yeah.
Any time from Nacht will be your 8th day. Yeah. Okay? And we'll talk about that more next time. Okay? We make sure that there is such a thing called the moth. We always have to mention things in halacha. It is called a recommended thing to do, but again, as we said, it is not ma'akev, it does not stop the person ever from going to mikveh, and if it irritates somebody, they find it an irritation, it is really something that is done away with. Okay, we have to have 7 consecutive days. Okay, so 7 consecutive days, and then we get to our wonderful time that we will do next time, preparing for Tavilla and our anticipating that. If anybody has any questions in between or anything that you would like covered at all, please feel free to get my number from Naomi or give her the question. She's good at. Emma, do it now.
Sometimes when you do this prayer, it looks very red.
Yeah.
But when it rains, it looks completely different.
The Rav knows.
So that's it.
I want you to know that the Rav knows.
So just
Okay?
you could highlight it that maybe
If you think sometimes anything that's think, just ask. Don't be scared to ask. Put it into a clean white envelope. Write the day of the week also even on your envelope because honestly, some of the things that people have said to me are really. And if it's something that people find an emotionally difficult thing, please don't drive yourself mad with it. Just speak to somebody because we can help you through this. Everybody has a different attachment to things. Sometimes these things can be very hard for people. Don't suffer. Don't do it. We've got to remember that everything that we do, Hashem wants us to be happy with the way we do Torah and mitzvahs. Do not suffer. Okay? If there are things we struggle with, ask for help. That's what people are here for, and that's what everybody wants us to be able to do, that we can really be happy keeping everything that we are blessed with, given the ability to keep. Okay.
After the Hefset? No.
After the mikveh.
After the Hefset, you change white underwear. The thing is, sometimes the stain, for example, is brown, which is halachically okay.
Yeah.
But would it be okay to sort of wear a pad or
If the Rav that you ask your shalas from is okay with checking panty liners, use panty liners. There are a lot of Rabbanim today. In fact, there's somebody in Hanover who actually tells people, he's getting out, throw away so many underwear. In fact, Dan Locken also used to say, these women think they're wearing white underwear. It's grey. How do they want me to tell a colour on this? Just tell them to get clean underwear, otherwise use the panty.
Rav Reuben says you should use the thin panty liners. He says also it's easier for the husband to bring over. I'm saying.
Well, that is, but sometimes you can't, so there should always be a reticence.
Yeah, but then the Rav needs to tear open the pad.
Then it's also a couple of a liquor.
Yeah, but the Rav has to tear open the pad, you know that? Because, sometimes the top is clean, and then if you pull it open, there's things inside.
Absolutely. Yes, she does say so. If you are uncomfortable taking your cloths to ask a shaila, that Mrs. Safati, Ruth Safati said to me today that she's very happy to take these things to the Rav for people, that you should rather ask and go sooner than be stricter on yourselves and not go. So Rebbetzin around is the Rebbetzin taking. There we go. The Rebbetzin has just offered anybody that doesn't want to take it to the Rav, can give it to the Rebbetzin. Say that again? No.
But a few times,
White is white.
a few times I've only taken
White,
He was like, oh, I'll show it to Rav.
colour is beige.
And I'm like, hello.
Okay, so coloured, you won't be able to tell anything on. White, and anything other than white is a colour. Yeah.
I also
Not in front of everyone.
for checking before going to the mikveh. What time is because I always time.
You mean the actual day?
If they told me, for example, you have mikveh 7 o'clock.
Okay.
What's the time for checking?
You don't have that day any time after sunrise. So whatever time sunrise is, okay, before sunset. So if you do one on day 7, any time between sunrise and sunset.
No problem with the time.
No. If you do If you do 2, then you do 1 in the morning after sunrise and 1 in the afternoon before sunset. That's it. But as long as it's between when it's light in the morning, before it gets to sunset in the afternoon. Okay? In the winter in London, that means between 8:30 and 3 o'clock or something. And in the summer, it means from 4 a.m. till 9:30. Okay?
You know, you should change.
5 and 7.
What did she say?
We teach our colors 5 and 7.
Okay, let me just make this clear. Okay, the Rebbetzins just told me, maybe it was a misunderstanding of mine, that when we teach Halachot, or when people learn, we say 5 and 7. That means that whatever time of day you get your period. If it's 10 minutes, if it's 10 minutes before sunset, that's day 1. If it is 4 minutes, 5 minutes after, now, I'm telling you something. In the summer, when it's after sunset, okay, it could be a long time and it could still be okay. Look at your phone, because that will give you a more accurate time. Okay? Your phone will give more accurate time, so check on your phone what time it is. Okay? As long as you know the time, you can phone the Rav. They usually have a very accurate calendar. And sometimes if it's only 4 or 5 minutes after sunset, it could still be day 1. Okay? So that will be day 1. Okay? If it's half an hour after sunset, sorry, that's day 1. So it's the whole day. Okay? And it's important when we're marking it down also in our calendars, whether you got your period, this will be for next time, but to mark down whether you saw and got your period during the daytime or the nighttime. Okay? So you always mark in your calendar or your diary or wherever, I got my period in the daytime or the nighttime. So that becomes day 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and on the 5th day, before sunset, okay, that is when we wash and we do a hefsek tahara, okay, and then we start counting that night, day 1, okay. I will show you also again next time, but for some people who sometimes get a bit confused, these are very easy, good cards. Okay, to keep that when you mark it down from when you get your period, what day you're doing your hefsek, and mark, and just do a tip that you do day 1. This has got all 7 days, 2 opportunities to do Bedika class.
Some Bedika class come with it
Some packs have them. I saw the ones that you have today don't, but sometimes they actually have the day with the things to mark. In London they do, they have the pink and blue packs. The truth is that I recently got from America, for the last few years, I've been getting from America these cloths, which are just for anybody who has any sensitivities to any Bedika class. These are actually just amazing. They really are amazing. So, if anybody does, we'll talk about that next time. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just to mention to the ladies, in the reception where there is an there's also calendars, and if they need more calendars,
I saw. And you got those packets for the Okay, so the next time.
Next Wednesday.
There's a special bag. There's a special bag that you can put your Bedika cloth inside, and when you go, you put it in your bag, so you're not stuck. And it's a nice one with colors. Nobody can suspect. This is also
Okay.
Ladies, Chana Levitan can, we'll be speaking here next Wednesday, Wednesday evening at 8:15 in Windsor. But we'll send round as much as we can so I can leave the poster. But
She's my good friend. She's great.
There's not enough space.
And know me, if they decide they want to do, maybe let her get a guitar and she can sing about, play some drums. Yes, she was a famous musician.
we can have a concert.
Huh?
We can have a concert.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you can convince her to do concerts after. It would be a blast. Okay,